You're tuned to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. This is the Acupuncture On Air program. Our pleasure, as always, to have in the studio Heiko from the Acupuncture Clinic in Hastings. How you going, Heiko?
I'm very good, Ken. And what T-shirt you got on today?
Got the good old US of A.
Oh, right, okay.
Old Navy.
Yeah, fantastic. When you're going again to Hawaii? Or?
Oh, yeah, my wife would love to go back there, but it's just, I can think of about 8,000 or 9,000 reasons why it's going to take a little while. But you've been there?
No, I haven't. It's on the list.
A very chilled out place to visit, I found.
Yeah.
Everyone's sort of really relaxed and cool, and no one points at you or looks at you. Everyone just gets on with their life over there. But anyway, before we get on today's topic, which is all about food allergies, I just wonder, of course, regular listeners of this program will know that you're on YouTube. You getting good feedback off YouTube?
No, I am, and I can sort of basically backtrack like the first shows. Mm-hmm. Like I think the first show that we did was actually on the gallbladder, and then that's how it had now, I don't know, over 200 hits or something. So somewhere people are finding it, looking at it, listening to it, and I do find it's generating sort of new inquiries, new appointments. So it's really good.
People are becoming more aware of acupuncture as an alternative to traditional medicine, aren't they?
And what I find about the YouTube in particular, it's always there now. You know, I mean, sometimes if you want to hear the radio show and then it's Tuesday, 11 o'clock's gone, and then you've missed out.
That's right, exactly.
But there's sort of the YouTube, it's easy to find. I can send it to someone and then it's there.
And they get to see you as well.
Yeah, that's right. And you.
Yes.
And your T-shirt.
That's right. I should have shouted, here we are, look at that. Beautiful. Now we're going to talk about food allergies, and it's an interesting one because, you turn around every 5 minutes and hear someone's allergic to this, someone's allergic to that. Is it about real allergies or is it just a fad?
Again, sometimes, I've thought about that, and then, because I just think back to my, my days in primary school, and like every kid had white bread and Vegemite sandwiches, and caramel slice or a vanilla slice, and
donut or a pie,
and flavoured chocolate milk.
Yep.
And we didn't seem to have any problems with asthma or allergies,
exactly,
or anything like that. But I do now. Many patients, that they're getting allergies or they're finding it. They have some certain symptom or some problem, and then they've been down a whole bunch of track to work out, and they can't. In the end, and I do think I'm a bit cynical about it. I do think sometimes it just gets labelled. Oh, you've got an allergy to something, but we don't know.
Yeah, sure.
What it is,
Interesting thing that my granddaughter came home from school a couple of weeks back, and she's only 8 or 9. And I said, "Do you want to make you a sandwich?" And she said, "Yeah, that'd be great, Granddad." So I made her a sandwich, and when I brought it in, she said, "Oh, no, I can't eat that, Granddad." I said, "Why's that?" And she said, "Because that bread's not gluten-free." And I said, "What do you mean it's not gluten-free?" And where did she pick that up from?
Yeah.
Because the next time she came, I just gave her a sandwich and she ate it. So it wasn't an issue. But look, to be quite honest, I think I have an allergy now. I can't eat meat. Did I tell you?
No.
I can't eat pork anymore. I used to love pork.
Right.
Can't eat beef.
Okay.
I can still eat chicken and I can still eat fish.
Right.
But if I start eating pork, look out. Is that just a sign of me aging? I mean, I know that it really does affect me. It's not a fad because I could have a pork sandwich anytime.
It may not necessarily be the pork per se, but I think we all know that now from the farming thing, they're fed food that's been sprayed with chemicals, and then they're given antibiotics, and they're given this shot and they're given that. It may be that you're sort of you're reacting to something
in the food
within that.
Yeah.
I do know I've had patients who just love a glass of wine with their meal at night. And then both the husband and wife say, "Look, we have it, and it's because we're getting older. We just wake up a bit zonked in the morning and we're dead and and we thought, we have to stop the wine." But then they found they've actually drunk organic wine, and there is actually some good organic wine. I think it actually comes from Gisborne, and they said, "We drink that, no problem."
So it's the additives that we see.
So, there's lots of things, all this, I don't know the first thing about wine growing, but maybe it's the sulphur they put in it, or maybe it's, I don't know, the sprays or something, I don't know.
And you mentioned a bit earlier that, when we were growing up as kids, we could eat anything we liked and we didn't have a problem, but there weren't that many additives back then with it. Is that what you're saying, that as we're becoming a more, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. I suppose that, you know, we want our food instantly and we've got stuff in there to make it last forever. Does that make a difference to us, do you think?
Look, I think it does. And I was talking to my colleague Mike from China, who's working with me here at the moment. And then I'm saying, look, you know, is all this allergy stuff like really big in China now as well? And he said, yes, it is. And I said, well, you know, what do you think, or what do the Chinese doctors say? And he said, look, mainly they think it's just from the pollutions in the environment, and then the sprays on the vegetables and on the thing. And he says it just has that sort of a cumulative effect, and then somehow that seems to, you know, react in a certain way.
So you're advocating, if at all possible, organic food.
Yeah, and I mean, I can remember, you know, 20, 30 years ago, you know, the scientific medical profession just laughed at people who said, oh, you know, sprays are bad for you and we should be going natural and organic, and they just said it's complete nonsense, and, you know, there's no evidence. But now, of course, it's the turnaround, and now you have every second doctor and every second scientist saying, you know, we need to be going natural and organic and getting away from, you know, Monsanto and all the rest. So
I suppose the only problem with that, of course, is the price of organic food, isn't it?
Yeah, but the reality is I don't think that's always the case. I mean, sometimes you can actually buy organic food that's actually cheaper than the stuff in the supermarket. I think it's relative to...
Or grow it yourself in your own garden.
You know, and I think there is a trend for that happening as well.
However, if we have got a problem with a reaction to food, what's going to fix it? Acupuncture,
you know, and herbs. But one thing I just wanted to say about the allergy thing. Sometimes people will find they're allergic to bananas. They eat a banana and they get a rash, or they get a headache, or whatever symptom they might get. And you can do a test where they put food on the thing and they do it, and then they go, oh, you're very high allergic to bananas. And you're medium allergic to, you know, say cucumbers, and you're a little bit allergic to tomatoes, you know. And so then the person stops the bananas, right? But then what happens is that the allergic response reaction to the other foods that they were only a little bit allergic to increases. So then they suddenly start, oh, well, now when I have a cucumber, I get the same reaction I used to get like when I used to have a banana. So then they stop the cucumber and the banana, and then they find, but now when I have a little bit of tomato, it's going, and then new ones pop up, you know. And so it's you know, the body, I guess, is responding to that in such a way. And this is where I think the Chinese medicine concept of, you know, an allergic response or the immunity is to strengthen and to regulate the body to improve what's functioning right now and there. And for example, just one example with Chinese medicine, what talks about with the stomach and the spleen energy, or the centre, the digestive system.
Yeah.
When that is weak, it's not processing foods properly, and that's affecting the assimilation of, we say, energy in blood, but in Western science, it's, you know, the assimilation of your nutrients and all the other little chemical reactions that go on. So when that happens, we have classic signs that you get bloating, that you get wind, that you can get acid, you know, that you can get tired, that you can get fatigue, brain fog, all these symptoms that get labelled as allergic reactions, right? So then you come along and you treat the stomach and the spleen, for example, and then it's like, well, now I can eat this stuff that used to like make me feel absolutely shocking, but now it doesn't seem to do it as much. So that's because it's like, you know, the engine is running better. You put a bit of bad fuel in it, the engine still copes quite well.
Sure, but how do we get the engine to start running better? Is that through acupuncture, or is it through a whole lifestyle change?
It's both, you know, and certainly the acupuncture can help to stimulate that. But at the same time, you know, I still recommend, of course, that people, you know, eat more natural foods, and I think these days you don't need me to tell you on air what's good or bad for you.
Exactly.
I think everybody knows. You know, having, you know, more exercise, more rest, recreation, you know, whether it's meditation or yoga or, you know, Pilates or whatever, find one that's suitable and of interest for you
Yep.
to deal with, less TV, more
exactly.
walks after dinner. We all know what to do. It's a matter
of doing it. Yeah, exactly right. Now, I've noticed over the last few weeks that while this program is called Acupuncture on Air, we have actually been focusing quite a lot on Chinese herbs.
Yeah.
Is that on purpose, or are Chinese herbs just as good as acupuncture for what we're talking about?
Yeah. Again, in terms of the traditional aspect, it's more Chinese medicine would be the better term. Now, Chinese medicine includes acupuncture. And within acupuncture, we have moxibustion, which is the burning of the herb near the acupuncture points, cupping, some of these things that we've spoken about, but also Chinese herbs. And Chinese herbs, they work on a diagnostic parameter. It's a system involved that where the acupuncture diagnosis is the same as the Chinese herb diagnosis. It might be spleen deficiency or liver fire or yang rising. We give them these exotic names,
Yes.
They're not exotic to us, but they are in terms of modern science. And then the herbs are used to treat these patterns or these conditions of disharmony. And so when that gets regulated, then other signs and symptoms, improve.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned a bit earlier that we might be, let's say we're allergic to those bananas, and then we get rid of them, and then we're allergic a bit more to the cucumbers, and then we're a bit more allergic to the radishes. What about the herbs that we're going to put into our mouth from the Chinese medicine point of view? We might be allergic to those?
That's not to be ruled out. There are, I think people people have rung me and say, oh, look, I'm allergic to licorice.
Yep.
Is there going to be any licorice in the herbs? And then I say, well, okay, if I know that you're allergic to them, then I won't put them in. But, I might have 300 or 400 different herbs, and I've got no idea whether you're going to respond in an allergic response. But sometimes it gets a bit different, because sometimes people have an aggravation with a herb or a food, and that's not necessarily an allergic response, right? So you might go and have 10 chilies now, right? And you break out in blisters in your mouth, right? That's not an allergic reaction. That's just because chilies are super hot and fiery, right? And there are other Chinese herbs, that if you have a good digestive system, we might give you this herb. Just one example is it's a herb called Romania, which is good for the kidneys, right? But the herb itself is we say it's quite wet and heavy and damp, and so that if you've got a weak digestive system, you will feel bloated and you might get a bit of diarrhea or loose stools. Now, that's not to say that herb's you're having an allergic response to that herb. It's just that herb's not the appropriate one to prescribe to you.
Okay. When people are listening to this program and they hear you mention these words like herbs and moxibustion, but let's focus on the herbs, that they might think they're going to go home with a whole bunch of leaves. Is that what happens, or do they come in a pill form?
Yeah. Now, when I used to work in Sydney, in Chinatown, I worked in a Chinese herb shop, and then basically in the shop, probably 3 times the length of this wall was just all these drawers with hundreds of different herbs in them, and anything from seeds, barks, sticks, resins, roots, dried leaves, syrups been dried up, and then the actual herbal combination is then a mix of might be 10 to 20 or 6 of these herbs. But now I'm generally particularly in the sort of the modern hospital setting in China or in a modern clinic, is that these herbs are now being made like freeze dried, a bit like instant coffee but instant Chinese herbs.
Yep.
And there's very big factories. And the ones I use actually come from Taiwan. Taiwan leases the land in China. They grow the herbs with insecticide free and all that sort of stuff. Send them to Taiwan, put them in these special cooking pots, whatever they do, and then you get /instant granule herb X, herb Y, herb Z, and then I use that in their mix. So you basically will have a bottle of it looks like a jar of instant coffee or half a jar, and then you get a spoon of that, add the water, and then you drink that down. One, it's for the convenience, but also then it's a whole lot of the quality control that goes into that process, to help to assure that the herbs are of good quality and made well.
And are all herbs like that, or do you have them in a pill that you can put them in?
Oh, there are many herbs that you can get in pills, particularly in Australia. The pills are quite common, but they're sort of standardised formulas, so they're a little bit limiting in the action for the individual needs of a patient, but they could be useful of a general nature.
Tell us a bit about moxibustion, because in the treatment of food allergies, because I can understand the concept of the needle.
Yep.
I can understand the concept of putting the herbs in your mouth, because traditionally that's how we think.
Yeah.
But I still can't get my head around how will
the moxa.
How will the moxa work for an allergy?
If you think with acupuncture, it's basically a very, very thin piece of metal, and you're sticking it onto the skin and then through the skin, and you might be stimulating a nerve or that tissue around, or that influencing those cells, and that's connected to like an energy line or a meridian that might connect to your spleen, for example. The moxa, as I said, it's a herb that's sort of, one of the methods is it's rolled into like a cigar shape type stick. You light that, and then you hold that near the acupuncture point. So it's the heat of the herb itself stimulating the acupuncture point. And then the researchers think it's something to do with the essential oils emitted from the heating of it that affects the acupuncture point, that affects the meridian, that then affects the outcome.
Is breathing in the fumes of the moxa part of it as well?
No, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Because often, I'll have a patient lying down on their front, and then I've got the fan on to get the smoke out, and then I'm doing the heat on their back, and they can feel it, and they haven't breathed in any of the smoke. They would have only just felt the warmth on their back.
Yeah. Now, next week's show, we're going to talk to someone about moxa.
That's right, yeah. We're going to be talking to Kane Monrad. He's one of our colleague acupuncture practitioners working up in Hamilton. And he actually imports a lot of the moxa products for us. And so we buy them off him like at wholesale prices or whatever that we then use in the clinic. But yeah, he has he treats everything and anything, a bit like me, but he also has a large number of patients that he uses moxa for fertility. And so the show will be more focused on that. So that'll be next week.
And something to look forward to indeed. Now, before we get to your song of the week, which I actually approve of this week.
Oh, okay.
Just remind our listeners where you are.
206 Charles Street. Once you go to my website, acu123.co.nz.
And you're there 6 days a week?
Yeah, I'm there 6 days a week, except if I'm going to Wellington to see a concert or something.
Exactly.
So the song, of course, I'm glad that you approve of it. It just came to my head, just I think it's Midnight Oil, and it's the song called The Power and the Passion.
Great song, and it's off their album, 109876543321.
Right, okay.
What a great name for an album.
And that's all you know about it?
No, well, I can tell you a little bit about that song, that the lyrics actually mention former Australian Prime Minister Gough Whitlam and his dismissal in 1975. And they talk about the Pine Gap Spygates, because those guys were sort of quite green in a way, weren't they? That they were very much focused on issues.
Yeah, well, Pete Garrett, isn't it? Was he the singer? He actually became an MP, didn't he?
He did become an MP,
yeah. So, and then he went out of politics to go back to record again. So,
yeah, it's all good, and it makes reference in the song. Not that I've listened to the words, but I'm going to now. Apparently, they talk about a McDonald's Big Mac.
Oh, right, okay.
And one of the lines is, "It's better to die on your feet than to live on your knees."
Oh, isn't it? That's
prophetic.
So it's even better than Dylan.
Here it is.
Okay.